Hello, everyone. My name is Adam.
And I am Julia. We are so happy to have you with us today.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Today we have a very interesting topic to discuss.
We are going to talk about the art of storytelling for better conversation. Storytelling is a powerful tool.
That's right, Julia. Storytelling can make our conversations much more engaging. When we tell stories, we can share our experiences and emotions with others.
Yes, and it helps us connect with people on a deeper level. When we tell a good story, people listen closely and remember what we say.
Storytelling is not just for books or movies, it is something we use every day in our lives.
Exactly. Whether we are talking to friends, family, or even new people, telling a story can make the conversation more interesting.
And the best part is, everyone can learn how to tell a good story. You don't have to be a writer or a speaker, you just need to practice.
Today, we will talk about why storytelling is important. We will explain what makes a good story.
Yes, we will also share some tips on how to tell a good story. These tips are easy to follow and great for beginners.
And we will even give you an example of a simple story. This will help you understand how to create your own stories.
So stay with us. By the end of this podcast, you will know how to use storytelling to make your conversations better.
We are excited to share this with you. Storytelling is such a fun and useful skill.
Absolutely. Let's get started and dive into the wonderful world of storytelling.
Yes, let's begin.
Julia, why is storytelling important?
Storytelling is important because it helps us share ideas and feelings in a way that others can understand and remember. When we tell a story, we are not just giving information. We are creating an experience for the listener. This makes our message more powerful and memorable. Through storytelling, we can convey complex emotions and ideas in a simple and relatable way.
That's a great point, Julia. Stories have a unique way of capturing people's attention. When we tell a story, people are more likely to listen closely and stay engaged. This is because stories are interesting and often include details that make the listener curious about what happens next.
Exactly. And when people listen to our stories, they can connect with us on a deeper level. They can feel what we feel. For example, if you tell a funny story, people will laugh with you. Laughter is a shared experience that brings people together. Similarly, if you tell a sad story, people will feel empathy and understand your emotions better.
That's true. Storytelling also makes it easier for people to remember what we say. Think about it. We often forget facts and figures, but we remember stories. This is because stories create a mental image in our minds, making the information stick. When we tell stories, we use descriptive language that paints a picture for the listener. This helps them visualize the events and remember them longer.
Yes. And stories are not just about the words we use. They also involve tone, expression, and body language. When we tell a story, we can use our voice and gestures to make the story come alive. This adds another layer of connection with our listeners. They can see and hear our emotions, making the story more impactful.
Another important aspect of storytelling is that it helps us share our experiences and culture. Stories are a way to pass down traditions, values, and lessons from one generation to the next. Through storytelling, we can share our unique perspectives and learn from others. This helps build understanding and appreciation for different cultures and experiences.
Absolutely. And storytelling is not just about big, dramatic stories. Even small, everyday experiences can be turned into interesting stories. For example, talking about a funny thing that happened at work or a nice walk in the park can be engaging if told well. The key is to find the interesting details and share them in a way that makes people want to listen.
So storytelling is a powerful tool for communication. It helps us connect with others, share our emotions, make our message memorable, and pass on our experiences and culture. By learning to tell good stories, we can make our conversations more engaging and meaningful.
Yes, and the best part is, anyone can become a good storyteller with practice. We all have stories to tell, and by honing our storytelling skills, we can make our interactions richer and more enjoyable.
So what makes a good story?
A good story has 3 parts: the beginning, the middle, and the end. These 3 parts are like the building blocks of a story. Each part plays an important role in making the story complete and engaging. Without these parts, the story might feel incomplete or confusing.
Yes, let's talk about the beginning first. In the beginning, we introduce the characters and the setting. This is where we tell the listener who the story is about and where it takes place. For example, if the story is about a little girl named Lucy who lives in a small village, we would describe Lucy and the village in the beginning. This helps the listener understand the context of the story and sets the stage for what is to come.
Exactly. The beginning is important because it grabs the listener's attention. We need to make the introduction interesting so that people want to keep listening. We can do this by adding some intriguing details about the characters or the setting. For instance, maybe Lucy is a very curious girl who loves exploring the village. This makes the listener curious about what adventures Lucy might have.
Now, let's move to the middle of the story. The middle is where the main events of the story happen. This is usually where the characters face a problem or challenge. The problem is what makes the story interesting. It creates tension and makes the listener wonder what will happen next. For example, maybe Lucy finds a mysterious map that leads to a hidden treasure. The problem is that she has to solve many puzzles to find the treasure.
Yes, the middle is where we build up the excitement. We show how the characters deal with the challenges they face. This is also where we can add twists and turns to keep the listener engaged. Maybe Lucy gets lost or meets someone who tries to take the map from her. These elements make the story dynamic and keep the listener interested.
And finally, we have the end of the story. The end is where the problem is solved and the story comes to a conclusion. This is the part where we show the result of the characters' actions and how they overcame the challenges. For example, Lucy finally solves all the puzzles and finds the hidden treasure. She brings it back to the village, and everyone celebrates. The end gives the story a sense of closure and resolution.
Good stories also have interesting characters and settings. Characters are the people or animals in the story. They can be anyone or anything, but they should be relatable and interesting. The setting is where the story takes place. It can be a real place or a fictional one, but it should be described well enough for the listener to imagine it.
And don't forget the problem and solution. They are the heart of the story. The problem creates the tension and interest, and the solution provides the resolution. Without a problem, the story might be boring. And without a solution, the story feels incomplete.
Another important element is the theme. The theme is the main idea or message of the story. It can be something simple like friendship or bravery. The theme gives the story meaning and makes it more memorable. When the listener understands the theme, they can relate to the story on a deeper level.
Also, adding details and emotions can make a story more vivid and engaging. Details help the listener visualize the scenes and characters, while emotions make the story feel real and relatable. For example, describing Lucy's excitement when she finds the map or her fear when she gets lost makes the story more compelling.
So, to summarize, a good story has a clear beginning, middle, and end, with interesting characters and settings, a problem and solution, a meaningful theme, and vivid details and emotions. By including these elements, we can create stories that captivate and engage our listeners.
Yes, and remember, practice is key. The more we practice telling stories, the better we will become. So let's keep practicing and enjoy the wonderful art of storytelling.
Adam, how can we tell stories better?
There are several techniques we can use to tell stories better, especially when we are just starting out. One important technique is to use simple language. Easy words are good for beginners because they make the story easier to understand and follow. When we use simple language, our listeners can focus on the story itself rather than getting stuck on difficult words.
That's a great point, Adam. Simple language helps keep the story clear and accessible. Another technique is to add details. Details make the story come alive. They help paint a picture in the listener's mind, making the story more vivid and engaging. For example, instead of saying, "It was a nice day," you could say, "The sun was shining and the sky was a bright blue." These details help the listener imagine the scene more clearly.
Yes, details are very important. They create a rich and immersive experience for the listener. Another key technique is to show emotions. If you feel happy, sad, or scared, say it. Expressing emotions in your story makes it more relatable and real. When we share our feelings, our listeners can connect with us on a deeper level. For instance, if you say, "I was so excited when I found the hidden treasure," your excitement will be felt by the listeners, and they will share in your joy.
Absolutely. Emotions are a powerful part of storytelling. They help convey the true essence of the story and make it memorable. Another technique is to keep the story well structured. A clear beginning, middle, and end guide the listener through the story. This structure helps
and logically. We can also use repetition to emphasize important points. Repeating key phrases or ideas can help reinforce the message and make it more impactful. For example, if the theme of your story is bravery, you might repeat the phrase, "He was not afraid," at important moments to highlight the character's courage.
Good point, Adam. Repetition can add rhythm and make the story more memorable. Another technique is to use dialogue. Including conversations between characters makes the story dynamic and engaging. Dialogue can reveal character traits, advance the plot, and make the story more interactive. For example, instead of narrating, "Lucy asked her friend for help," you could have a dialogue. Lucy said, "Can you help me find the treasure?" Her friend replied, "Of course, let's do it together."
Yes, dialogue brings the characters to life and makes the story feel more real. We should also pay attention to pacing. The pace of the story should vary to maintain interest. Some parts of the story might move quickly, with lots of action, while others might slow down to focus on details or emotions. This variation keeps the listener engaged and prevents the story from becoming monotonous.
Pacing is indeed important. It helps build suspense and keeps the listener intrigued. Another technique is to use sensory details. Describing what the characters see, hear, smell, taste, and touch makes the story more immersive. For example, saying, "The cake smelled sweet and delicious, and its creamy texture melted in her mouth," engages multiple senses and makes the experience more vivid for the listener.
Sensory details add depth to the story. We can also use metaphors and similes to create vivid images. Comparing one thing to another can make descriptions more relatable and interesting. For example, saying, "The night was as dark as a black velvet curtain," helps the listener visualize the darkness more clearly.
Metaphors and similes are great tools for making abstract ideas concrete. Finally, practice is essential. The more we practice telling stories, the better we become. Practice helps us find our unique voice and style. We can practice by telling stories to friends and family, or even by recording ourselves and listening to the playback.
That's right, Julia. Practice makes perfect. So to sum up, we should use simple language, add details, show emotions, maintain a clear structure, use repetition, include dialogue, vary the pacing, use sensory details, incorporate metaphors and similes, and practice regularly. These techniques will help us become effective storytellers.
Yes, and remember, storytelling is an art that anyone can learn. With these techniques, you can make your stories engaging and memorable. So, let's keep practicing and enjoy the wonderful journey of storytelling. Yes, and remember, storytelling is an art that anyone can learn. With these techniques, you can make your stories engaging and memorable. So, let's keep practicing and enjoy the wonderful journey of storytelling.
Let's give some tips for our listeners.
Absolutely, Adam. We have some great practical tips for anyone who wants to become a better storyteller. First, practice storytelling in daily life. This is very important. Tell your friends and family about your day, an interesting event, or something funny that happened to you. The more you practice, the more comfortable you will become with telling stories. It doesn't have to be a grand or complicated story. Even simple stories about everyday experiences can be engaging if told well.
That's right, Julia. Practicing regularly helps you develop your storytelling skills naturally. You start to understand what works and what doesn't. Second, listen to others' stories. You can learn a lot by paying attention to how other people tell their stories. Notice how they structure their stories, the details they include, and how they express emotions. This can give you ideas for your own storytelling.
Yes, listening to others is a great way to learn. When you hear a good story, think about what made it interesting. Was it the characters, the setting, the problem, or the way the story was told? Try to incorporate these elements into your own stories. Also, don't be afraid to ask questions. Asking questions can help you understand the story better and show the storyteller that you are interested.
Another important tip is to keep your stories short and interesting. Long stories can sometimes lose the listener's attention, especially if they are filled with too many unnecessary details. Focus on the main points of your story and keep it concise. An interesting story doesn't have to be long. It's about how you tell it. Make sure each part of your story contributes to the overall message or experience you want to share.
Exactly. A short, well-told story can be much more powerful than a long, drawn-out one. Try to get to the point quickly and keep the listener engaged with interesting details and emotions. Also, use pauses effectively. Pausing at the right moments can build suspense and emphasize important parts of your story.
Another practical tip is to use body language and facial expressions. When you tell a story, your body language and facial expressions can add a lot to the storytelling experience. They help convey emotions and make the story more dynamic. For example, if you are telling a funny story, smiling or laughing can make the story more lively and enjoyable for the listener.
Yes, body language and expressions are very powerful tools. They can make your story come alive and help the listener connect with you on a deeper level. Also, make sure to use your voice effectively. Varying your tone, volume, and pace can make your story more engaging. For example, speaking softly can create a sense of mystery, while speaking loudly can convey excitement or urgency.
That's a great point, Julia. Another tip is to be authentic. Be yourself when telling stories. Authenticity helps build trust and connection with your listeners. People can tell when you are being genuine, and they are more likely to engage with your story if they feel you are being real with them.
Absolutely. Authenticity is key. When you tell stories that are true to your experiences and feelings, they become more powerful and relatable. Also, don't be afraid to show vulnerability. Sharing your mistakes, fears, or challenges can make your stories more relatable and human.
Another practical tip is to pay attention to your audience. Tailor your stories to the interests and preferences of your listeners. For example, if you are telling a story to children, use simple language and include elements that capture their imagination. If you are talking to adults, you might include more complex themes or emotions.
Yes, knowing your audience is very important. It helps you choose the right stories and the right way to tell them. Also, be open to feedback. Ask your listeners what they liked about your story and what could be improved. Feedback can be very helpful in improving your storytelling skills.
Finally, remember that practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the better you will get at storytelling. Don't be discouraged if your first few stories are not perfect. Keep practicing, learning, and improving. Over time, you will become a more confident and skilled storyteller.
So, to recap, practice storytelling in daily life. Listen to others' stories. Keep your stories short and interesting. Use body language and expressions. Be authentic. Tailor your stories to your audience and be open to feedback. These tips will help you become a good storyteller.
That's right, Julia. Storytelling is a skill that anyone can learn and improve with practice. So let's keep practicing and enjoy the journey of becoming better storytellers.
Yes, and remember, storytelling is not just about entertaining others. It's about connecting with people, sharing experiences, and making your conversations more meaningful. Happy storytelling. Now, I will tell a simple story. Listen carefully.
Go ahead, Julia.
Once there was a boy named Tom. He lived in a small, quiet village surrounded by beautiful green hills and tall trees. Tom was a kind and curious boy who loved to explore nature. Every day after school, he would go on little adventures around the village, discovering new places and meeting new friends.
That sounds interesting, Julia. What happened next?
One sunny afternoon, as Tom was walking through the village square, he heard a soft whimpering sound. He followed the sound and found a little puppy hiding under a bench. The puppy looked scared and hungry. Tom's heart melted when he saw the puppy's sad eyes. He gently picked up the puppy and noticed it was wearing a small red collar with a tiny bell.
I can imagine how Tom must have felt finding that puppy. What did he do next?
Tom decided to take the puppy home. He knew that the puppy needed care and love. When he got home, he gave the puppy some warm milk and bread. The puppy drank the milk eagerly and wagged its tail happily. Tom named the puppy Max and decided to take care of it until he could find its owner.
That's a great name for the puppy. How did Tom search for the owner?
Every day, Tom would walk around the village with Max, asking people if they had lost a puppy. He even made little posters with a drawing of Max and put them up around the village. Days turned into weeks, and still no one came forward to claim Max. But Tom did not lose hope. He kept searching, believing that Max's owner would be found.
Tom's determination is admirable. Did he finally find the owner?
Yes, Adam. One day, Tom was walking with Max in the market when an elderly man approached them. The man looked at Max with tears in his eyes and said, "Max, I have been looking for you everywhere." Tom was so happy to finally find Max's owner. The elderly man explained that Max had run away during a storm, and he had been searching for him ever since.
That must have been a touching moment for both Tom and the elderly man. What happened next?
The elderly man thanked Tom for taking such good care of Max. He gave Tom a big hug and said, "You are a very kind boy. Thank you for bringing Max back to me." Tom felt a warm glow of happiness inside. He was glad that Max was reunited with his owner. The elderly man even invited Tom to visit Max anytime he wanted.
That's a beautiful ending to the story, Julia. Tom's kindness and determination paid off. Let's break it down for our listeners. The beginning, we are introduced to Tom and the village. The middle, Tom finds the lost puppy, takes care of it, and searches for the owner. The end, Tom finds the owner, and they share a heartfelt moment of gratitude and joy.
Yes, Adam. It's a simple but nice story that shows the power of kindness and determination. Even though it's a short story, it has all the elements of a good story. It has interesting characters, a clear setting, a problem, and a resolution. Plus, it has emotions and details that make it engaging.
And this story also teaches a valuable lesson about helping others and never giving up. It's a great example of how a simple story can be meaningful and impactful.
Exactly. So, to all our listeners, remember that even simple stories can be powerful if told with care and emotion. Practice telling your own stories and use the techniques we discussed to make them engaging. Happy storytelling.
Today, we talked about storytelling. We learned why it is important and how to tell a good story. Storytelling is a powerful tool that helps us connect with others, share our experiences, and make our conversations more engaging and memorable. It's a skill that everyone can develop with practice.
That's right, Adam. We also shared some practical tips for beginners to help you get started on your storytelling journey. We talked about the importance of practicing storytelling in your daily life, listening to others' stories to learn from them, and keeping your stories short and interesting. We also discussed using simple language, adding details, showing emotions, and paying attention to your audience. These tips can make your stories more vivid and engaging.
We heard a simple story about Tom and the lost puppy, which illustrated how even a straightforward story can be meaningful and impactful. The story had all the essential elements of a good story: a beginning, a middle, and an end, along with interesting characters, a clear setting, a problem, and a resolution. It also showed the importance of kindness, determination, and never giving up.
Yes, Adam. Storytelling is not just about telling stories, it's about sharing a part of yourself with others. When you tell a story, you invite others into your world, and that creates a bond. It makes your conversations richer and more enjoyable. So, keep practicing your storytelling. Use the techniques we discussed today, and don't be afraid to experiment and find your own style.
Storytelling can help you in many aspects of your life, whether it's making new friends, presenting your ideas at work or school, or simply having more engaging conversations. It's a skill that will grow with you as you continue to practice and learn. Remember, every story you tell is an opportunity to connect with someone and make an impact.
We want to thank all our listeners for joining us today on the English Globe. We hope you found our discussion on storytelling helpful and inspiring. Keep practicing, and don't forget to have fun with it. The more you enjoy telling stories, the more your listeners will enjoy hearing them.
Absolutely, Julia. Thank you for being part of our storytelling journey today. We look forward to bringing you more tips, stories, and engaging conversations in our future episodes. Your feedback is always welcome, so let us know what you think and what topics you'd like us to cover next.
Yes, we love hearing from our listeners. Your ideas and suggestions help us make our podcast better and more relevant to your needs. So, keep the feedback coming, and let's continue to learn and grow together.
Thanks for listening to the English Globe. We appreciate your support and enthusiasm for learning English and improving your communication skills. Remember, every conversation is an opportunity to tell a story and make a connection.
See you next time. Keep practicing, keep storytelling, and keep connecting with others through your stories. Have a wonderful day.
Goodbye, everyone. Take care and happy storytelling.
Bye. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the wonderful world of stories.